Hi guys, so welcome to the second series for bivariate plotting. And for bivariate plotting, we're looking at examples of bivariate plot. We in the previous video we just completed the scatter plot for bivariate plots, and now we'll be looking at the line plot. Right now, to document, the question is, what does a line plot do? Now, before we go into that, we understand that there are specific use cases for bivariate plotting, from feature engineering to correlation analysis, trend analysis, and group comparison. Now, we're going to be understanding the trend analysis part of the bivariate plot. Now, line plots display trends or changes in one variable with respect to another, and it's often using time, right? Because time is not standalone, so time has one point to another. At every instance, time has one point to another. So plotting that change in trend or those changes with respect to one variable to another makes for the line plot, right? So here we're going to be looking at trends and changes in one variable to another. Right, and what we're going to do is we are going to create a line plot. Right, we already have matplotlib imported. We already have Seaborn imported, matplotlib as PLT. Over here, you would see that we have matplotlib as PLT. We have Seaborn as SNS. So let's get plotting. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, so let me just put this here, is I'm going to be using a flights data set from the Seaborn repository. So again, I'll call flights. And in here, I'm going to use SNS.load data sets, and in here I'm going to put in flights, and then I'll look at the first 5 rows. Now, if you look at the first 5 rows, we have 3. It just has 3 columns. Now, the column headers are year, months, and passengers. Now, we're going to be looking at trends, and we're going to be looking at months and passengers, but also we'll be looking at year, trying to understand the trends there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a subset. I'm going to create a subset. Now, why am I creating a subset? I'm going to make a subset of the year 1950. Now, if you look over here, we have different years here. So to make that, I'm going to call this flights _ 1950. So to make a subset, we'll call flights. Again, to make that subset, we're going to put a square bracket, because that's what we want to do. Inside of it, I'm going to call flights again. Then the column of interest is year, right? So you can see over there. So I'm going to say year. Now, for some reason, this column here has year as integer. So which means I can basically look at the year with 1950 as 1950 over here, and I close it. So when I run this, I now have flights 1950.head. Let's just see the first 5 rows. So you see that we already have our data of interest here. We've made a subset out of it. Next, we're going to plot. So I start off with SNS.lineplot. Now, again, I'm going to be looking at months over here. So the x-axis is going to have months. The y-axis is going to have passengers. And then our data we're going to be looking at is going to be flights, you guessed it, flights 1950. So that's going to be our data. Now, it's always interesting to have titles. So I have plt.title. So I'm going to call this trend. I'm going to call this trends and passenger over months. Passengers over months. And then put in the bracket, I'm going to say 1950. So that's what I'm going to have here. Right, so we have this. Obviously, we have the X and Y axis. So we have plt dot X label. And here, this is just going to be simple. We have months. And of course, the Y axis, which is the Y label. And obviously, we're going to have passengers. And finally, what we're going to do, we're going to render our visual. And here we go. What are we missing? What are we missing? Okay, let me see. I think this is it. And so over here, you can see that we now have our trends over here. You can now see the trends. Now with the trends, you can basically understand if there's something going on here. We can see that starting in January 1950, that passengers, the passenger numbers were gradually growing from February to March, and there was a sudden dip from March to May, and then there was a sudden height. It went up. There's like a hype from June, July. Then it maintained a certain trend. It maintained a line for like June, July, and then it plateaued from August down to November. So you can see what the trends look like, and you can find out insights using that. So that's what the line plot does. And if you are doing any analysis and you're looking to provide insights and you have time, and you know time goes from one point to another, and you need to find out the insights and report to stakeholders, the line plot is your friend.